How can we believe that God made a special covenant with Isaac in the Bible while God himself is saying two different things in the Bible? First, God says that the promised land is for Abraham's descendants, and on the other hand, God says in the Bible that the promised land is for Isaac's descendants. What is the truth? Was there an attempt to change the Bible? If there was no attempt to change the Bible, then why did God say these two things in different ways? In the Bible, the promised land refers to the land of Canaan, promised by God to Abraham and his descendants, Genesis 12:7. It symbolizes a divine covenant and hope for a better future. According to the Bible, God's covenant regarding the promised land was specifically through Isaac, Abraham's son with Sarah. This is detailed in Genesis 17:19-21, where God says the covenant will be with Isaac, and again in Genesis 26:3-5, where the promise is reaffirmed to Isaac. Ishmael, Abraham's son with Hagar, is also blessed by God as mentioned in Genesis 17:20, where God promises to make Ishmael a great nation. However, the inheritance of the promised land is not tied to Ishmael in the Bible, but to Isaac's descendants. Historically and politically, the interpretation of the Promised Land has been significant in shaping the identity and claims of both Jews and Arabs. For Jews, it is central to their historical and religious connection to the land of Israel. For Arabs, especially Palestinians, the descendants of Ishmael often view the land as part of their rightful heritage and history. The term descendants of Abraham applies to both Isaac and Ishmael, as they are his biological sons. This is undeniable in both biblical and historical terms. So what should we understand from these two interpretations? Was God confused in expressing his word, or was there an attempt to change the Bible, especially from this perspective? It's possible that human hands played a role in shaping the narratives we have today. Some scholars argue that the emphasis on Isaac in the Bible may reflect the perspective of the Israelites, who saw themselves as descendants of Isaac. Consider, the Torah, first 5 books of the Bible, was written and compiled by Israelites. They naturally focused on their lineage through Isaac to highlight their identity and divine claim to the land. Some scholars suggest that stories involving Ishmael may have been downplayed or interpreted negatively due to rivalry between the Israelites and neighboring groups. The Bible mentions tension between Sarah and Hagar, as well as between Isaac and Ishmael, Genesis 21:9-10. This might reflect not only a familial conflict, but also historical tension between their descendants. In Islam, the Quran emphasizes that both Ishmael, Ismail, and Isaac, Ishak, were prophets and part of God's divine plan. However, the Quran does not focus heavily on the concept of a promised land, as the Bible does. Ishmael is revered as the ancestor of Arabs and the one who helped Abraham build the Kaaba in Mecca, Quran 2:127. There is no suggestion in the Quran that God was biased or confused. Rather, each son had his unique role in God's plan. The idea of God making a mistake is unlikely from a religious perspective. However, it is possible that human interpretation, rivalry, and